Welcome to Off the Record, a legal podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Off the Record, a legal podcast with Rhett Burney, an experienced attorney helping families across the upstate of South Carolina with estate planning, probate, and family law matters. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're talking about how to make sure the items that carry sentimental value like jewelry, furniture, photos, family land are passed down smoothly and without conflict. Rhett, welcome back.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing great. You know, when people think about estate planning, they usually picture money, they picture property, but they don't think about other things, sentimental items that can cause big disagreements. Last episode or 2 episodes ago, you guys talked about a lamp that people fought over for way too long. How can people protect these things, though, so that they can make sure that they're getting what they truly want out of this?
Yeah, you know what I love is when people come into my office and they say, grandma, granddad, they just went around the house and put everybody's names on all their items. And that's probably not the best way to do it. In reality, what happens to all your stuff when you die, Kevin?
A lot of it's going to probably go into the landfill, I would guess.
Yeah, that. Have you ever been to Cracker Barrel?
I have.
Look at the walls of Cracker Barrel. I think it's got everybody's heirlooms on the walls. So that's what ends up happening. But yeah, there are ways of preventing that. And generally what we do, we list it specifically in a will. If you come into our office and we do a will for you, we will do a personal property memorandum and put it on the back of the will and incorporate it into the will. So when you leave our office and you think, okay, I need to leave, grandpa's watch to Susie, you write it on there and it becomes part of your will. And so when you die, that specific piece of property will go to Susie. Otherwise, what will happen is you can name, if you have 5 children, you say, all my personal property go to the 5 children. Well, guess what? You cannot divide that one pocket watch between 5 people. So in family dynamics, that can be very, very difficult. And if you have that type of family where you think for a moment they might fight over, the old chair or whatever, make sure you list it out, because if you just put the sticky note on the bottom of the chair, don't be surprised if somebody changes out that sticky note and puts it on something else. So you need to put it in writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's a hard. I suppose some of the people don't really think about, when they're, if they have certain things, I'm sure they think about it, but is it just a conversation you think that people have to have? I mean, it's not a real comfortable conversation, but is it something that you would recommend somebody who's creating a estate plan? Look, talk to your kids, find out who has a sentimental, attachment to different things, and then put it into your will.
Yeah, I think so, because you never know. And if you're not having that conversation, it will never get discussed. And all of a sudden, what you've done is cause an event after your death, which is what you're trying to prevent, and that's fighting between your family. And so if you don't memorialize it in some way, have the discussion, but after the discussion, put it in writing and say, I want the pocket watch to go to Susie, and make sure everybody knows about it, because inevitably you're going to have 2 people say, oh, grandma said that I could have the pocket watch. So yeah, have that discussion. And my parents had that discussion with me. They said, what do you want? I said, I don't want a thing. Yeah. Whatever you have, I'm throwing away because I've got enough of my own junk. But there are certain sentimental items that people have that, if you don't want it to fall into the probate court where they're fighting over it, go ahead and just name it now, or put it in writing now and tell everybody what you've done. And you may be surprised, if you're the one making the will, what somebody wants.
Yeah, I think about myself, I'm probably more like you, Rhett, in that respect. Whereas I could see like my brother and perhaps my sister being a little bit more interested in some of that sentimental stuff. Is that another thing that you would recommend, is for the siblings to talk about it and maybe by themselves?
Yeah, but I think they then need to go to their parents, because if every family's different. There's some families that never fight, and they're going to, they're never going to have a problem no matter what. But their spouses, on the other hand, may cause a division, because, Kevin, your wife may want what your mother had, her 10-carat wedding ring or whatever. Or you may just have that family where they fight about everything. Right. So you hate to think that we have to get petty over things that may not have any value other than sentimental value. But unfortunately, the world is made up of petty people, Kevin. It keeps us in business. So if you want to really preserve your family, which is the whole goal of estate planning, make sure you discuss it and make sure you put it in writing, because just telling someone is not going to be enforceable at court later on. And memories seem to fade, and people distort the truth sometimes, as you can imagine. So if it's really, really important, then you need to put it in writing and talk about it.
Is it something that has to be part of an estate plan? Could it be, I don't know, something written down on a piece of paper that mom or dad puts in a desk drawer? Is that binding, or does it have to be a legal document?
I mean, if you do it right, it can be binding, sign it and so forth. But if you have a will and that separate piece of paper and they're not somehow incorporated, then depending upon when they were written, one may be enforced over the other.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you do have that, if all else fails, it would be, if you can't do it properly, write it out, and hopefully that can be used as evidence if you went to trial and had to, fight over these things, or maybe your family is sensible enough not to fight over it. That is a cheap way of doing it. It's a little bit riskier, but also look at the value of some of the things that you're dealing with. If it's a vase that you can go buy in Walmart every day of the week, maybe there's not even use to doing it, but if you know that there's something that's been handed down from generation to generation, that even though it has no market value to it, but it is sentimental, it's your great 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 grandfather's dentures or whatever, then maybe you want to put it in writing so somebody knows that they have to take it.
Oh, that's a great example, because who among us do not want our great 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 grandfather's dentures?
Oh, Kevin, I had a case one time where this little old lady, years ago, you get married, and this still happens, but not as much. You would get the place settings, the china,
Right.
all of that. And she gave every family member across the country one piece of china, one fork, one whatever. And so, people would get these notices, and they would show up at our office. They'd flown in from California to pick up, Grandma Smith's, whatever she left to them in the will, and we'd hand them a butter knife, because she thought everybody would want one of her pieces of china. And how many people really wanted that? No, nobody did.
Mm-hmm.
But, also be a little bit mindful of that as well. Are you really just giving your junk away, or is there some value to it? Because if I don't own anything of any value that anybody would really want, sell it all, Kevin.
Yep.
Sell it all and split the cash, because it is still king.
Yeah. That's really funny, because maybe someone would have wanted the china set.
Yes.
But not a bowl, not just one bowl and a butter knife. Yeah.
No, it was humorous, because we had a lot of people, as you can imagine, were upset because they thought they were getting something of value, and it cost them more than what they received. But be mindful of that as well. People may not like your stuff as much as you do.
And in that situation, I'm guessing, given your story, that you're not allowed to tell them what it is, right?
In this particular will, she didn't want people to know. And, I don't know whether it was a big joke that she was playing on everybody. Maybe it was her last thing from the grave, her last joke, whatever. But in this particular case, we couldn't tell anybody. They would come in thinking they were going to get this whatever, and they got a spoon.
That's too funny. I wonder if it was her way of being like, you kids fight too much.
Could be.
I was going to actually ask about the different states thing. I mean, does that affect the process of transferring or sharing these types of items after someone passes away, or is it just really just more logistically difficult?
It's just logistics.
Okay.
It's just logistics. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, we have clients all over the world who are handling estates, and loved ones died here in South Carolina or owns property here, and we distribute the property at however South Carolina law tells us to. So it doesn't matter. Everybody lives in different places these days. Very few people live in the same hometown they grew up in. So It's just all logistics at this point in time.
Yeah, good point. What are some of the other mistakes that you see people make when they're trying to divide up these sentimental items, or maybe writing it down, maybe not writing it down? What are some of the other mistakes?
Yeah. I think telling telling different people they're getting the same thing.
Oh yeah.
That tends to cause fights, or telling loved ones, yeah, I've put all this in my will and it's in writing and everything's going to be okay. Well, you know what? They think everything's going to be okay, so they don't push them to do it. Their estate planning, and then only to find out that they haven't done anything, or they're vague in what they give people. For instance, you may have, it could be a man or a woman that says, I want my jewelry to be divided equally amongst my children. If you've got 3 children and 50 pieces of jewelry, how do you do that? That's, especially if they don't get along, that's just
right.
a recipe for disaster. So you have to be careful, because costume jewelry and real jewelry are considered jewelry, and so you're going to have a fight if you have 5 diamonds that are real and 20 diamonds that aren't. Who's getting what at that point in time? So if you're going to do something like that, and you can see where there might be some type of misinterpretation or overly broad interpretation, or even too specific, you need to make sure that you get into the details, because otherwise you're going to start an argument.
Mm-hmm. And when this stuff isn't laid out, is that part of the probate process then, the fighting over things, if there is infighting about it?
Yeah, it is, because if you die and you have left, let's say in this case, the jewelry to my children, and you've left someone in charge of dispersing this jewelry, they don't know what to do.
Right.
How are they supposed to do that? Are they going to do it by value, or by number of pieces, or are we just going to sell it? So you have to think about that. And we have people come in all the time, Kevin, and they have different ways of what they're wanting to do, and we have to talk them out of it, because we see the problem that they are creating, and it's not their intent, but we see what they're doing, and we have to talk them out of it. Not only do people try to give away jewelry, they try to give away their pets, right? And create all kinds of problems with that. Who's going to take care of the pet? And not tell Steve that he's getting ready to get a pet Chihuahua if they die. So I would tell you, if you're doing things like that, make sure you tell the person, hey, you're going to get the pet Chihuahua. Are you okay with that? Before you put it in writing, and now they show up at the office to pick up the Chihuahua.
I'm probably really happy about
it. It's great. It's great.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to Off the Record, a legal podcast with Rhett Burney of Rhett Burney Law in Simpsonville, South Carolina. To learn more about wills, trusts, and planning that keeps families connected, visit rhettburney.com. Also, of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We got lots of great stuff coming your way. Rhett, always love chatting with you. Thanks so much.
Same here, Kevin. Remember, when you do that will, make sure that you specifically list me getting that microphone, okay?
Okay. You want the mic. Got it.
Mic.
Duly noted.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.